Okay, so welcome. December 30th. We've been doing these meditations now for several weeks, really sort of diving into this realm of self. And this week is really quite an important week because the theme for this meditation is setting intentions for 2024. And I would like to make a discernment to start off with. And the discernment is when we set an intention, who is the I, or which part of us is setting the intention? So that just sets the scene a little bit for us. So before we unpack that, who is the one? Who is the I that is setting an intention? Let's see if we can find a comfortable space, a comfortable position for the body. And as per usual, allow yourself to be fully human. This isn't about sitting in the perfect, correct pose. This isn't about making sure that you breathe the right way. In fact, these meditations are nothing to do with doing, but really more about being and abiding as. And notice how in this permanent flow, the state of flux that the body-mind complex is in, whatever position you take up, allow yourself to move. If you get an ache or if there's anything that is moving you, then just follow it. So the basic premise that we're starting off these meditations is that we're allowing ourselves to be perfectly human. This isn't about attaining selfhood, attaining any spiritual enlightenment, or attaining anything than what you are right now, in this moment. So just take a body scan from head to toe. And maybe let your parts know that we're going to be here for a while. This is going to be a meditation for around 45, 50 minutes. And just as self allows total freedom to the parts, see if you can allow total freedom for your body, for anything to come and go within this spacious awareness, this awareness of self as the open sky, welcoming parts. And I always like to compare this liminal space to Rumi's field. This is the space of no right or wrongdoing. There's no blame here. See if you can meet yourself in this field and meet all your parts in this field. So allow total presence in the body. And we may find that when we allow total presence, there's a sort of a letting go, a relaxation, an expansion. And as so often happens, we tend to hold our breath. We tend to hold the tummy in. So if you can allow everything to be really wonderfully spacious, imagine luxuriating in the spaciousness of the stomach, really letting it be loose and grounding through the root. So this is where we find ourselves on this Saturday, December 30th. We find ourselves in this Rumi's field. And if you've read this lovely poem, you'll see that one of the lines asks you what you really desire. What is it that you truly want? And because self allows this wonderful multiplicity of parts, what you want, what you desire, may not be a simple one-word answer. This leads us back to when I started at the beginning, talking about becoming curious about who is setting an intention for us. Which part? What are its desires? What are its needs? And how are the actions that this part takes perceived in the outer world? Maybe if you take a scan of the timeline of your life and look at some of the previous times that you set an intention for yourself. See if you can be really discerning about what that intention was relating to. And just as we say there are no bad parts, we can equally say there are no bad intentions. Even if the outcome of acting on that intention turns out to be unpleasant for yourself or for anyone around you. So the first thing to notice is that intentions are not as simple as we once thought, if we really allow ourselves to tune into the nuance of which part of us is setting it. I.e., follow the trailhead back to the origin of the intention. We may find that what these parts are truly calling out for is simply to be seen, to be valued, to be loved, accepted, welcomed. The surface goal may be something that looks a little different from that. It might be to improve your health. It might be to lose weight. It might be to earn more money. Might be to find a really loving partner. And those are all really valid and sacred needs and intentions and desires of our parts. And viewed from another point of view, notice how they are based in a sense of lack and scarcity and poverty, and a sense of being separate from self. Just notice what is present for you here now. See if you can allow spaciousness, allow breath to be here too. So often, whatever we intend tends to be related to the external world. And by far the most common example of this is when we project our need to be loved and seen onto our loved ones. Now, we're social creatures. So on the one hand, this is just what we are here for. to co-regulate, co-create with each other. But if we become very discerning about who is projecting that need or who is sending that intention out, it might well be the part of us that is still seeking to be seen by its caregiver. And so we may find that sooner or later, the fantastic spouse that we had stops meeting the needs of this part and resentment builds up. And at that point, we can make a U-turn. We can retract our projections in the external world and look within at the self. So that self can provide the validation, the support, the nourishment, the love that these parts crave. And then when we do return to the world, we return from a sense of wholeness, not lack. Interdependence, a sense of wanting to co-create. So we have a both and here. We have this reaching in, diving into this vast, expansive, loving landscape of self within us, and then returning to the world nourished and co-creating with others, with our loved ones. And it's so possible to have both. In fact, it's essential to living a skillful human life, to living from those beautiful values and principles that we all love, such as trust, openness, authenticity, compassion, care, support, validation, all those beautiful things that we really truly cherish. And it might be very heartbreaking for some of our parts that the validation that we seek isn't necessarily going to be found in the external world by a way of a new job, a new partner, a new house, a new country. it might be really heartbreaking for them to find that it's actually here within you. And this is where we can really allow space and time, compassion for these parts that were adamant that it was going to be someone else who saves us, someone else who gives us what we've been praying for, what we've wanted all along. It turns out that the hero in the story of our life is us, is self. We get to be that hero for ourselves. And notice what happens to the parts inside. Being our own hero doesn't mean that we then don't get to co-regulate and co-create with others in this world. Doesn't mean that we don't receive love from others and that doesn't somehow enrich our self too. It does. But primarily, it is us. So notice how whatever intention we may have, if we distill it down to its smallest property, what we're really asking for is love, acceptance, validation. And then who but self offers that freely, plentifully, unendingly within this beautiful inner world. So the invitation is to again scan through all the intentions, wishes, New Year resolutions that you've had previously throughout your life. And discern which part, what was the part's desire? And what was the underlying need. And notice how intentions have changed throughout your life. Or at least on the surface. What you desired when you were 2 years old, and then 10 years old, and then 15 years old, 30 years old, 40, may not be what you desire now. So notice how on the surface, intentions appear to vary according to circumstances, the parts setting that intention. And yet, when we distill the essence of what that intention is attempting to call in, it's love. So from the one point of view on the surface, there's perpetual change. And from another point of view, deeper down, there's an unchanging essence of calling for love. Again, let's dive in and notice, what is my heart's desire? What is my intention for 2024? Again, remind yourself you're in Rumi's field. There is no right or wrong. There is no better or worse. All intentions are sacred. All intentions are valid, equally valid. we can also gain some really useful insights into how the inner family is for us by becoming curious about who set that intention. And sometimes it helps to write the intention down. And your mics are muted, so you can even really allow yourself to speak that intention and notice what comes out. Sometimes the intentions don't really surface as a thought or even an inner voice, but maybe as a sensation in the body. Maybe there's some pain in the body that would quite like to be healed in 2024. Notice how on the surface, intentions appear to be something that we think we understand. And yet when we really sit with the body mind as a whole, we find that there's all manner of things that are calling out, that can be seen and witnessed by self. The body mind is really very creative in the way it communicates needs, desires, wishes, wants, intentions. And notice if whatever intentions you can attune to, notice which ones can be met or are already being met in self. So intention becomes a kind of a gratitude. And notice if the loudest parts are visible here, if they are the ones who are making any. If you send out a call for the shyer parts, the parts that are barely audible, barely noticeable in the inner world, if you send out a call for those, what would their intention be? And maybe noticing if there's a common theme in between what the parts want for you for 2024. Or maybe notice if there's any polarity in between needs. And again, you can be as creative, as wild, as imaginative. Sometimes there can be a manager part that can attempt to keep intentions sensible and achievable and prim and proper. But how would it be to allow full creativity? Notice how the space of self, Rumi's field in this metaphor, is wild. It's not a perfectly manicured garden with perfectly trimmed green grass and perfectly spaced out planted trees. This is Rumi's field. This is Rumi's meadow. It's open. It's unknown. Maybe an owl flies in. Maybe a fox passes through. So-called weeds and flowers grow in equal measures. Deer comes to nibble. Maybe there's a water hole. You notice how this space of self needn't be prim and proper, needn't be perfect. There's space for all. And maybe invite parts to express their intentions through art, through creativity. If you were to invite a part to draw what its intention is, what would it be? And keep reminding yourself that this is open to all. Shy, quiet parts are welcome. The creative, imaginative, loud parts are welcome. Now, if you scan across this field and notice the intentions that are here, how would these intentions look if they were now channeled through self-leadership? Viewing these parts now as singing from one hymn sheet. What would the essence of this intention be? And maybe so far you've found yourself largely in the thinking faculty. If you were to invite your awareness into the heart, this is the spiritual heart in the center of your chest. Are the intentions any different there? And if you were to dive down lower and go into the solar plexus just beneath your rib cage, is there an intention there? And we can bring awareness to these points of the body by directing the breath, attuning to the rise and fall of the belly or the chest. Maybe sometimes it helps to place a hand on the area that we're wanting to tune into, feeling the warmth of the hand. And moving down into the sacral area, what's the intention there? And finally, we can move down at the root, the base of the spine. And is there an intention there? And in my desire to embody the 8 qualities of self, the 8 C's, I like to align them with the chakra points of the body. And see how each of these resonates or moves any of the intentions that you may or may not have had when we tune into the body. So down at the root is confidence. In the sacral area is creativity. Solar plexus, courage. The heart space, compassion. The throat, clarity. The third eye, curiosity. The crown, connectedness. And the core essence of your being, in and out, calm. So see if you can be a witness to any parts, either in the body, in the thoughts, in the feelings, if they are moved by any of these 8 C's. So one intention for a self-led being would be to bring in more of the 8C qualities into our inner family, our outer family, our neighborhood, communities, into the country that we live in, and this shared earth. So my intention for 2024 is that we might all know self and lead from self through these wonderful qualities that bring us so much joy, so much connection. And self is not only the personal particle self, but it's also the self as a wave, this transpersonal. And so in speaking these intentions, I'm sending it out through the very fabric of existence to every being. May we all know self. May we all lead from self. so that we can feel peace, contentment, joy, safety. This is my intention. So as we come to the end of this meditation, notice how your body is. Notice how the space of self is. It has this lovely bird's eye view of these parts. Soft eyes, kind heart. See if you can send a note of gratitude to all the parts that came to join this meditation. And maybe they want to do some of these activities after the meditation. Carry on really sitting with what your intentions are. By a way of journaling, creating artwork, movement, dance, and speaking to our trusted loved ones, sharing our intentions, mirroring, co-creating with others on this journey. I wish you all the best for 2024.